As I sat there, staring at the beautiful diamond ring on my finger, I couldn't believe what had just happened. Just moments ago, I was ready to walk away from the man I loved, convinced that he didn't care about me or our relationship. But now, as he stood in front of me, apologizing for his behavior and asking for my hand in marriage, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with emotion. I could see the sincerity in his eyes and the love in his heart, and I knew that this was the man I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. But it wasn't always like this. Our relationship had been rocky from the start. We had our fair share of arguments and disagreements, but we always managed to work through them. However, when he didn't come home from work one day, I couldn't help but feel hurt and betrayed. We had talked about starting a family and building a life together, but how could we do that if he couldn't even be bothered to come home to me? In the heat of the moment, I told him that I wasn't going to marry a man who didn't come home from work. I regretted those words as soon as they left my lips, but it was too late. He left, returning the rent money I had given him, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I knew I had to return the money to him, but I never expected him to come back with a wedding ring. And now here we were, with him on one knee, pouring his heart out to me. As I looked at him, I couldn't help but think about how far we had come. From strangers to lovers, we had been through so much together. And as he asked me to marry him, I couldn't say no. I knew in my heart that this was where I belonged, with this man who had seen me at my worst and still loved me unconditionally. But as I later sat down with my friends and family, sharing the news of our engagement, I couldn't stop thinking about the words I had said to him. My closest friend, Grace, had always been there for me, and I knew she had my best interests at heart. When she asked what had happened, I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. I was ashamed of my outburst and afraid of her judgment. But as the night went on and the celebrations for our engagement continued, I couldn't keep the truth hidden any longer. I confided in Grace, telling her everything, and as I expected, she scolded me for my harsh words and reminded me that love is about fighting for what you want and not giving up easily. It was a lesson I needed to hear, and one that hit me hard. You see, I had never experienced rejection or humiliation in public before. But as Grace shared her own experiences with me, I realized that she too had faced her fair share of hardships. And as she listened to me, offering her support and understanding, I couldn't help but feel grateful for her presence in my life. But it wasn't just Grace who helped me see the error of my ways. It was also a chance encounter with a kind stranger who showed me what true compassion and generosity looked like. As I was walking home, feeling overwhelmed and unsure, a businessman approached me and asked for some money or food. At first, I was annoyed and ready to brush him off like I did with all the other beggars I encountered on a daily basis. But as I looked into his eyes, I saw a familiarity and understanding that I couldn't ignore. He reminded me of my own struggles, of the times I had begged for help and been turned away. And in that moment, something shifted within me. I saw him as a human being, with his own struggles and pain just like me, and as he offered to buy me lunch, I couldn't refuse. We sat at a nearby cafe, enjoying a meal together. He asked me what flavour I wanted, raspberry or peach, and for the first time in a long time, I got to choose. I couldn't remember the last time I had eaten something that wasn't scraps or leftovers, and as I savoured the delicious food, I couldn't help but feel grateful for this stranger who had shown me kindness and empathy. But it wasn't just the meal that he offered me. He also offered me something even more precious: hope. He gave me money for a hostel and offered to buy me some better clothes. It may not seem like much, but to someone like me, it meant the world. He saw my struggles and offered to help without expecting anything in return. He was the first person who didn't turn away from me, and my heart swelled with gratitude and admiration for this stranger. As I walked back to my apartment that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the events of the day. I had almost given up on my relationship and my love, but with the help of my friends and a kind stranger, I realized that it was worth fighting for. And as I looked down at the ring on my finger, I couldn't help but smile. This ring symbolized not just our love for each other, but also the love and compassion that I had experienced from those around me. It was a reminder that love knows no boundaries and that it